And that, my friend, is why we do what we do. What is going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and Baylorers to learn how to rock more and suck less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
It's been a wild week so far, and we're not even like halfway through.
This week came out of the corner swinging, I will say that.
Yeah, you and me both, sister. How are things?
I'm good. I'm making it. We're recording this a couple of days early. It's only Tuesday, and it feels like Thursday. Yep. So it doesn't feel at all out of place in my week to be recording.
Yes, the scheduling around back to school and now just all of the day-to-day activities has gotten a little bit hairy.
Yeah.
So I was like, my wife is out of town, so why don't we inconvenience no one but each other?
Perfect.
And do things while we have some downtime and frees up other stuff for later on in the week. So Here we are.
Yep, exactly.
And the magic of it is that none of you guys are any the wiser. And if we hadn't explained it to you, you wouldn't have known.
Yeah, and you probably don't care anyway.
Nope.
So there you go.
But even though we spoke, nary a few days ago, a lot has happened.
It's true.
So when we last spoke, I was in the throes of prepping for the gig that we did at that theater.
The theater.
Specifically 37 Main, which is a venue in Avondale Estates, which is technically Atlanta, but technically not. And we went and loaded in, and I got everything all set up. And basically, with the exception of the LED wall thing that we had talked about in the previous week, everything that could have gone right, 100% went right.
Love that.
And it was one of those gigs where everybody was like firing on all cylinders and it felt effortless and the crowd was with us from the drop and it was just a magical evening.
So awesome.
I can't tell you the last time we had one of those kind of gigs because, to be perfectly honest, we're doing, private stuff normally. So the crowds are typically smaller and the vibe is usually just different.
Yeah.
So just to have a paying crowd that was just super stoked to be there. It was somebody's birthday and they brought a bunch of people.
Cool.
And they were just down to have a good time, and have a good time they did. And
that's awesome.
Ergo, we did also.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And owners seemed to be happy and still waiting on that check to come in, but it could not have gone better. And we had some people there and they shot some good footage and I got it. And
cool.
It sounds and looks great. So we will kind of circle back to that in a little bit. But man, it's been a long time coming and so stoked that things went so well.
Yeah, congrats.
I will take that and I will say thank you.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Because I have a hard time accepting positivity and compliments and those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, you worked hard for it, and these things sometimes just drop out of the sky, and sometimes you work hard for them, and often it's both.
Yep.
So there you go.
Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. It's one of them businessy things they tell you.
Yeah. What is it? I've been working 20 years to be an overnight success.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you had the weekend off. How was that?
Listen, it was good. It was weird. It was good. And one thing I did was I executed my bar crawl sales strategy, which is a thing I've talked about on the podcast before. It involves going out as gig hunting, a bar crawl across a few venues and buy a beer because first year customer. And then you chat with whoever's there that is a decision maker or can get you toward a decision maker. And it's kind of interesting. So I stopped at 3 places. I stopped at Pig Pounder Brewing here in Greensboro, which is a place that in the before times I played a ton of music at. My band was playing there monthly. I was playing the live acoustic karaoke there every Friday night. I was a prominent part of their music program before COVID. And they've been through 2 managers since then. And one of them sent me an email a week ago and said, "Hey, I'm hearing about the new Strange. We'd love to have you come do karaoke." Okay, well, yes, but I have this suspicion that she's confused about what exactly my offerings are.
Okay.
And when I walked in and had a beer and sat down and she got off the phone call she was on and came and, the bartender sent her over to me. In fact, she was confused. She was picturing full band karaoke, which is not a thing that currently I offer. But she would love to get me back in there on the rotation for live acoustic karaoke. She offered me Friday nights, every Friday night. Now I'm doing every Wednesday night already, and I got a day gig and a family, and I just can't see 2 weekly standing things. It's too much. So I said, but look, I'd do every other week or every 3rd week or something like that. I'm happy to get on a rotation like that. And she said, I've got some other people that want to do things in here and I could totally work that out. So we're going to get back onto a probably every 2 or 3 week cycle with them doing that. And then she said, for the full band Saturday nights, we are booked through the end of the year, but, certainly keep you in mind for fill-ins as there are cancellations or whatever. And then in November, when I'm planning the rest of the year, definitely we'll want you in here. So part of that was just on strength of knowing of me from the past. We'd never met before that night. She was not around in the olden days.
Right.
But she knew of me and reputation preceded me, and, she was ready to do business. So that's really good. That's clearly going to happen. Well, I had my wife with me, and she'd never been to this brewery here in town called Joymongers. And so I was like, I happen to know their whole deal. There's not a chance I'm going to get in there, but I'll take you for a beer. And it's a great spot. And the music they do there on Thursday nights packs the place on a Thursday night, packs it. And it's been two bands. It's been the Finns and it's been the Good Watts alternating for 3 or 4 years. Every Thursday they've alternated, and there's been no way in for any other bands. Well, the guy who runs the Finns just bought a venue of his own. He's moving the Finns there. The woman who ran the Good Watts, she's kind of moving on to some other stuff. So there's like suddenly these gaps in their schedule. And he took one of my flyers and he said, listen, you catching us in a moment when we're looking? And sure enough, today, the woman who's in charge of actually booking them reached out to me and said, hey, I got clearance to go ahead and get you on the calendar. When's good? And this is as bar gigs go in town, it's a really prominent one. So it's a pretty exciting opportunity. Working out how to schedule that. And there's a little complexity to it since it's on a Thursday, but we'll figure it out and be in there. So that's essentially 2 for 2. And then the third stop that I made was at a place called Steel Hands Brewing, which also has a location in South Carolina, apparently. But they are new in town. And I hadn't been in there before, but I knew one of the general managers from previous venues and bookings and life before this time. So I kind of suspected he'd be there, and I walked in and there he was behind the bar. And I saw a guy I know on this little concrete stage with house sound playing an acoustic set. Turns out they are fully engaged in having live music, and he gave me the booker's name and said he'd put in a good word. And so, out of 3 stops, I got 2, like one very hot lead, one booking in progress, and one sounds pretty promising connection with the booker. So very successful outing overall.
Wow.
Yeah. Kind of 3 out of 3. I mean, nothing's closed yet, but give me a week.
3-ish out of 3.
3-ish out of 3. Exactly. Yeah.
You caught me in a silly moment when you said new in town, because I thought of that John Mulaney. I'm new in town. Do you know that bit?
No.
I cannot explain it on a podcast.
I'll have to Google it.
Or save it for the post conversation.
Good. We can do that.
But that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Being able to get back into a place that you have history with, and then just being in the right place and asking the right question. I mean, that's kind of a crime of opportunity.
It absolutely is. And, I was texting with the woman from Joymongers and said, listen, the manager there told me you guys are having some upheaval with your regular bands. Like, great timing for us, obviously, and I'm glad we could pop up at the right time to fill gaps in your schedule. And she came back and said, yeah, man, perfect timing. We've been, I was in trouble and you've solved a real problem for me here. So, great. That's the whole thing. That's the whole point. So, yeah, awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, good. I may have sent off my last revision for that one client that keeps asking for revisions, and I got a couple of irons in the fire. I think we might be locking in a holiday party. And then I've got a solo date booked for September.
Cool.
So yeah, things are moving and grooving.
Awesome.
But I will say that there were a couple of things that they kind of fell in my lap and I didn't follow up quickly enough and had a couple of things slip through my fingers.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get a little, hesitant to reach out until I have time to communicate with people and confirm things and, make sure I have all of my T's dotted and my I's crossed, and
your ducks in a row.
Or my ducks are hatched and my chickens are in a row.
Your ducks crossed and your chickens dotted.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
So that's just one of those lessons. Sometimes you do need to strike while the iron is hot, and other metaphors and similes as well.
Indeed. Speaking of, last week I had this crazy idea about a loyalty program.
Yes.
I have since bought a custom hole punch that punches the letters D and R. And I've been designing cards, and I've run this idea past a few of my regulars, and they think it's hilarious and silly and fun, and we should do it. One of them said, I'm sure there's a way to automatically do it. There's a QR code or something. And I thought about how I would do that, and I'd like it the analog way better. It feels better to have it be like a in-person, come punch your thing, and then people ask, what the heck is that? And, it's this... it starts a whole conversation if it's physical and in person. So we're gonna go analog with it. And I think the prize, I know you were saying it didn't need to be some special, unique thing. I don't know. I think it's gonna be I think it's going to be custom barware of some sort. I think it's going to be probably a pint glass. We'll see. If I can find somewhere that it doesn't have like a gross as the minimum order.
That is where you run into those kinds of things. Now, I was having a conversation with a listener, and he is completely sold on the Cricut.
Yes.
And so he's used them to do custom guitar graphics. And it's actually, this is genius. I take no credit for this. This is John's thing. And basically, he put his preferred cocktail of choice and made it the design on the front of his guitar. So he has a green guitar, and his drink of choice is Tito's and Sprite. And so he's got a Tito's logo and a Sprite logo on the side of this guitar. And so now when people ask him, or they don't even have to ask, he's playing the show and they just start showing up on the side of the stage. Kind of genius, kind of dangerous. But
yeah, I like it though.
Speaking of living dangerously, I forgot to tell us that this was a fallout of the Friday night gig situation. So the gig went great and we had fun, and Amber's mom and stepdad came down and saw the show. They hadn't seen us in a while, and they had a great time. And as part of that, she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go home with them," and I was like, "Totally fine. You know, get some quality time in, get home a little bit early, no big deal." So we're loading out and, you know, shooting the breeze and stuff, kind of riding the wave. And I go to put all the stuff in the car, and the car is all loaded up. And I go to get in the car, and I push the button to start the car, and the car won't start. And we have one of those cars that has a fob.
Right.
And if the fob is not in the car won't start.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's strange, because it was definitely in my backpack before we did this, and couldn't find it. And so I call her, and I was like, hey, did you grab the keys? And she's like, no, I surely didn't. I was like, well, could you check? Turns out she did. She took it with him.
Yeah.
So the good news was that the car was unlocked.
Right.
So I was able to put the things in the car.
Right.
And lock it. And our drummer, who gets game ball for that night, drove me completely out of his way to get me home, and I owe him a bottle of something.
Yeah, he's the real MVP.
Yeah, for sure. And then we had to go back and grab it the next day, which was, everything was fine. The gear was fine.
Good.
The car was fine. But that's the only like footnote of how great that gig was.
Right.
But
right.
living dangerously.
I'll tell you, I leave gear in my car. On some level, it's totally living dangerously. But the reality is, somebody's going to break into a car wants, you know, loose dollar bills. They don't want to carry a PA out. That's not what they're doing it for. So I've never had the slightest problem parking my car on the street in a city full of gear. Maybe someday something will happen that make me think that was always a bad idea all along, but I've never.
Feels like a knock on wood scenario, sir.
I get that. Yeah. Well, maybe.
Yeah. In our case, like, we are very adamant about the garage being for cars. So our vehicles do not spend the night outside.
That's good.
And I've had that bite me in the butt for other reasons. When I lived in the city, I had a Mesa Boogie 1x12 kind of open back cabinet, and it lived in the trunk of my car, because I was like, nobody's ever going to see it because it's in the trunk and
right.
You can't get to it. And then we had a flash flood, and it flooded the back of my car and ruined the cabinet.
There was a real twist there. I did not expect that ending. That was a M. Night Shyamalan level change of direction.
Turns out it was dead the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
So that was most unfortunate.
That is a bummer. Yeah. I don't leave guitars in cars overnight, but
no guitars in cars.
Speakers and amps, and people aren't casually breaking into cars and walking off with amps. Generally, I don't think.
Yep. Again,
knock on wood, fully.
All right. I want to talk about, it feels like it might be a broken record, but it's just the things that are happening in our orbit tend to be happening in the Patreon Slack that we're in basically all day, every day.
Yep.
And it revolves around social media, and something that one of our patrons suggested, Chris from Mackin's Rock, suggested we create a meme channel, and we have just had so much success with this channel and kind of putting things together, and it really kind of,
and so much fun too. So it's been hilarious.
Oh yeah,
it's been hilarious.
What tends to happen is that somebody will come up with something and they'll kind of put their own spin on it, and you're kind of there to show off and kind of brag about, oh, I came up with this funny idea.
Right.
But in the process of doing that, you're also giving other people in the group the opportunity to kind of put their own spin on it as well. It's just been one of those really fun kind of things that not only is entertaining for us, but is beneficial for our projects. And talking about social media, there's all of these kind of components to it. And it harkened back to that conversation we had in the throes of the pandemic with Finn McKenty from the Punk Rock MBA.
Yep.
talking a lot about social media and what we should be prioritizing, because I think it's very easy for us to just ask for things. Come to my show, come to my show, come to my show, come to my show.
Yep.
Download my song, stream my song, pre-order my song, buy merch, buy. When in reality, like, people who do that, people don't follow you.
Right.
Because it's absolutely exhausting to just constantly be asked for things.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about, like, in a real world scenario, if you were at a cocktail party or, you know, a bar and somebody was acting that way, like, you would want to be as far away from them as humanly possible. So,
well, and then real world networking too, how that's done interpersonally is about how you can add value to other people by using your connections to provide for them. Right? That's how networking works, you know, and then ultimately when you're known as somebody who is a connector of people, it all kinds of comes back to you, but that can't be, you can't go to if you go to a networking event looking to get value out of it, you're missing the point.
Absolutely. That needs to be our aim as well. That should be the goal that we have.
Yeah.
Is to provide value. Now, let's talk about value. What is a value in terms of a cover band? What is the value that we provide? What would you say that is?
Entertainment.
Absolutely.
Escape.
Yep. And so what we need to do then is, if our job in a cover band is to be entertainers, you know what we should be?
Entertaining?
Entertaining.
Yeah. And so does that mean that our invitations are always entertaining, or what does that mean exactly?
Well, it can mean lots of things, but I think what that means, as far as I'm concerned, is providing value by being engaging and finding the right balance of giving and asking. And it's not that you shouldn't ask, because you should.
Yep.
Ultimately, social media is a promotional tool, but the way that you get people to resonate and to act when you ask them is an exchange of value.
Right.
So if you post regularly and people like your posts, they think they're entertaining, they're funny, maybe they share them, and then you go, I've got this thing, you should check it out, they're more apt to do that.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being a punisher where all you do is post stuff. Now, I will say this, members only, we promoted the absolute snot out of that show. And we did it in as many different ways as we could. We tried to make it, you know, we kind of varied it. We changed the branding up. We used different kind of techniques, and we definitely were asking. But now that show is over, we don't have anything for a little while. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to post memes and take some of these clips from the show that we just did that was incredible.
Yeah.
And the footage all looks good and it sounds good. So we're going to cut it up and just use that as a way to continue keeping our people engaged, so that the next time we have a public date to announce or to sell tickets to, they will be more apt to, you know, take us up on that offer.
Yeah.
And so that's the crux of the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's related to building your brand, right? If your brand is just all about gimme, that's not such an engaging brand. But if, you know, between the gimmies, there's here, look at this, here, look at this. This is fun. Look at this. You become a brand that people want to be associated with and want to consume content from and want to be part of, want to be with. And that makes them then hear your invitation in a whole different way.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that, and I think this is something that we, like as this specific show and kind of our online presence struggle with, is the edutainment component. Because ultimately, our goal is to be informative and educational and helpful.
Here at Coverband Confidential.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for us, it can be kind of like a hard transition, because social media is basically two different things. You know, you can either be nutritious or you can be delicious. I love that terminology, because it really does kind of like boil it down to its most like essential components.
Right.
So in our world, we can either be informative, helpful, or we can be entertaining. And trying to find the balance of those things is important, because people don't necessarily want to have helpful things kind of shoved in their faces over and over and over again.
Totally.
So you have to again, it's all about balance, finding the helpful things to intersperse with the silly things. Like right now, this afternoon, I posted one of those Tiger Woods, John Daly memes, and we got a lot of engagement out of it. And I've got 3 more on deck that I've already just set to load. And that's honestly, if you look through our history, it's kind of different. We have not been very good at being delicious. We've been super ASCII, super nutritious. So throwing in a couple of memes to break that up and, let people know, hey, we don't take this super serious all the time.
Like marshmallows in the cereal.
More like marshmallows in your salad.
Like marshmallows in your salad. There you go.
Yep, that's exactly what we're doing here.
That might be the episode title right there, like marshmallows in your salad.
Yep, marshmallows in your salad.
Yep.
A social media primer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So yes, in summation, be funny, be entertaining, be helpful if that works for you, but find the balance in don't go for the ask.
Yeah, it's just needy. It's just thirsty.
Don't be thirsty.
Don't be thirsty.
It also involves being involved in your online community. So comment on other people's posts and just kind of be present. And it can feel like a lot, but overall, that's how people find other people. If you have a funny comment and people resonate with that, it can mean you building up your following as well. Here's a great example of that. On TikTok, Anthony Fantano was posting something in regards to dad bands. He was making fun of dad rock, which is, a particular lane of music that people often malign. And I just happened to post, we have Defend Dad Bands merch in our merch store. And I'll be dipped if the day that posted it, the comment got a couple hundred likes and our Linktree page shot up.
Nice.
So people went and checked it out. We didn't get a ton of orders, but just because I saw a video and I was like, kind of in there.
Yeah, it's related.
Posted a comment and boom, something happened. So
cool.
You never know.
Yeah.
Any other parting words besides salad marshmallows?
No, I think that was the entirety of my deliciousness right there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, then we shall cease being nutritious as well and just end the show.
Very good.
Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. I cannot stress this enough. The Slack channel is where all the action is happening. $5 a month on Patreon. It's an absolute no-brainer. 1 cup of coffee versus the amount of value that is just being thrown around there. And to be perfectly transparent, we're not the ones sharing all the good stuff.
Yeah, not even close.
This is very much UGC, which is what they call in the industry user-generated content. Kids, they're making their own sauce. We just get to be a part of it, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Speaking of helpful stuff, I got a chance to do another coaching session around Ableton Live with our buddy John and his bandmate in Level Up out of New York. I was giving him a bit of crap because he wore one of our Pointy Boy shirts on the call. I was like, so tacky. But I think the this week's video might be kind of a breakdown of how to do that, because I will say this: the hardest thing about getting into Ableton in the first place is that Ableton is complicated and hard to work with. But specifically, when you're setting up backing tracks, not a single video that I've been able to find covers how to take karaoke version tracks and put them into Ableton Live in a methodical way. It's somebody going, I did this. I was like, well, great. Well, how do I do it?
Right.
So I might go to the trouble of breaking down how I set that up.
Cool.
And maybe we'll put the template up on our website for your perusal or consumption. So still working through that. But again, it's Tuesday. Normally I'm like, it's Thursday. And if I don't have something done by now, it's not happening.
Right.
So, but that's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
And
me too.
We got stuff to look forward to and things to take care of, and hopefully you guys have the same. So, kindest regards and warmest wishes from us to you. And if you would like to support us, you can do anything that Adam from the Van Band, at least for now, says to do. He has voiced his opinion that it is time for somebody else to provide the bumper for the show. So
he's probably right. He's got my last band name, my former band name in there. It's not really. It's not current.
Here, all right, you ready? Take this clip and put it on top of the bumper.
Okay.
For this week.
Okay.
The new Strange. And just drop that in.
Done.
So for right now, we can at least have that going for us until somebody else gets brave enough to do it themselves.
Okay. Done.
With that being said, in Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You've been listening to the Coverbandconfidential podcast for the week of August, 25th?
Look forward a few days. 25th, yeah.
No, 26th.
26th.
August 26th, 2022. Have a good week.